we all have a hidden power inside us that we too often ignore, dismiss, and just flat out avoid. That's because it feels bad, at least at first. But what if that discomfort was a signal, not of something broken, but of an inner power? Now I think we all know the feeling. This tug of war inside. We have undoubtedly verbalized it ourselves. We've heard our friends and family members struggle with it out loud. Should I try out for that team or not? For fear that I'm not good enough and I'll embarrass myself. Should I reply to that chat or leave it unread so that I don't look too eager or obsessed? This inner conflict is universal. In psychological science, we call this approach avoidance conflict. Our approach motivations push us towards doing things, usually because they come with some value and bring us some joy. On the other hand, our avoidance motivations pull us away from things, usually because they're challenging, scary, or painful. When our motivation to approach and our motivation to avoid collide, we feel conflicted. Now, conflicted is not a fun feeling. Okay? It's that feeling of tension, anxiety, and uncertainty. That's why we get frustrated by it. We get mad at it. But today I want to challenge the idea that inner conflict is all bad, something that we should avoid or squash. Instead, I want to show you how you can leverage its power for growth, resilience, and success. When we tune into our inner conflict, what I'll call our inner spark, we discover that it's the essential tool we can use to weigh options and make decisions. If we pause when we notice our spark, we can uncover both what we're afraid of and what really matters to us. Now, if we choose avoidance and become stuck in the face of our inner conflict, we shy away from challenges, from our fears, from disagreements with other people, which can develop into problems small and large. But behavioral and brain science shows us that as we focus in on this spark, it can illuminate strategies that help us approach results that are most in line with our core values in our life, work, school, with our friendships. And so, this journey for me to uncover the power of inner conflict started when I learned about a brainwave that you can measure in the research lab using EEG machine. It's called the error-related negativity, or ERN for short. And you can see it here in the little red brain blip. Now, what's cool about the ERN is that it reflects the magnitude of a person's inner conflict. And what really hooked me on this little brain signal is that it's larger in people who experience anxiety, especially people who worry or obsess a lot, which made a lot of sense to me, because if you've ever met anybody who worries or obsesses a lot, they experience inner conflict really strong. So let's for a minute think about a seemingly simple decision. Okay? Imagine choosing the flavor of ice cream. Okay, maybe among the 30 or so that are there in the case in front of you. Not so simple, but get the idea. I know, in life, decisions are much bigger and larger than choosing a flavor of ice cream. But they all come down to the same core issue. Be conflicted about the options. In approach avoidance conflicts terms, the conflict between what I may really want, like a scoop of chocolate, and the fear of what might happen if I make that choice. I regret not getting vanilla instead, or, that mint chocolate chip my friend has looks really good. And so based on 2 decades of my own research and working with people with anxiety, trauma, and OCD, I've developed a science-backed 4-step approach to turning this inner struggle into strength. Step 1 is identify the inner conflict. Pay attention to that spark in the moment that it happens. Step 2, focus on what drives you to avoid. Ask yourself, what am I afraid of? Step 3, focus on what's driving you to approach. Ask yourself, what do I really want? What do I value? Step 4 is resolve that conflict by bringing together your fears on the one hand and what you truly value on the other to move forward. So let's start by taking a closer look at approach avoidance conflicts as they arise in real time. So the approach system depicted here on the left in green is our go system. It drives us to pursue rewards and pleasure. It could be anything as basic from food and water or to bigger life goals like getting into a great college. On the right-hand side is our avoidance system, in the red. It helps us defend against loss and danger. It could be simple stuff like basics, same sort of ideas, snakes and spiders, disgusting food, bullies, or big life events like a breakup or getting fired from your job. Now, when these 2 systems are activated together, we experience approach avoidance conflicts. Which brings us to the core member of our cast of characters, the conflicting system itself. And through understanding the inner workings of the conflictive system, we can harness the critical functions of approach avoidance motivation serve us every day. Okay? Because there's signals to cue into, not to avoid or dismiss. Because they're the essential ingredients our brain uses to learn and grow. The conflicted system has a critical hub in the anterior cingulate cortex of the brain, which is depicted here in green. The anterior cingulate cortex, or ACC, sits in the middle of the brain. It integrates our motivations and emotions from the lower parts of our brain with our plans and goals from the upper parts of our brain. It lays out short-term plans towards longer-term goals, and it makes sure that we stay on track along the way. This is also the place where you find the ERN brainwave that captures the magnitude of somebody's inner conflict and is bigger in people with anxiety. Now, when the conflicted system activates, it pushes us to be in this cautious approach mode. And we stop. We pay closer attention. We feel that tension inside. We start weighing the pros and cons of our options. This is exactly where we too often ignore it, dismiss it, and give in to avoidance. And if we get stuck in that habit over time, we can develop significant anxiety. Instead, we'd have to stay in this cautious approach mode and pay attention to that conflict we're experiencing so we can leverage its power. So now that we have a new language and understanding of how the conflictive system works, let's unpack this conflict signal by looking at the approach and avoidance system separately so that we can lay out our fears and values and look more carefully at what we have in front of us. So the next step in realizing the power of inner conflicts is to focus in on our fears. What drives us to avoid? When a high school student named Sarah came to see me, things were going pretty well. She had great grades, she had a bunch of friends, she had a boyfriend, and she also had a fear of vomiting. In the dining hall, she was afraid that she was going to eat something or drink something and get sick. So she avoided going to the dining hall. At parties, she worried that she might drink or eat something that might make her sick. So she avoided going to parties too. And she worried that she would get sick and throw up if she kissed her boyfriend. So she avoided that too. An acting major, Dan, who came to see me, starred in leading roles in different musicals and plays at his college. Now, Dan only really felt like himself when he was in character, because he wasn't being himself. He was being somebody else, and so nobody could see who he really was. Otherwise, he felt like an imposter. He couldn't be himself and relax when he wasn't on stage, and so instead, he drank, he smoked weed, he popped pills from a Xanax bottle he carried with him everywhere. So I want you to ask yourself, what are you afraid of? What are you avoiding? Is it rejection and being left out? Is it failure? And what are the different things that you're doing to avoid these situations? Are you not putting yourself out there for somebody you might care about? Not revealing something about yourself for fear that people might think you're weird? Or not taking that AP class for fear that you might fail it? So this brings us to our next step, step 3. Focus on what you really want. Focus on your values. What drives you to approach? Okay, for Sarah, it was about strengthening her relationships with her friends and her boyfriend, about going to parties and having that first kiss. For Dan, it was about being his full self with other people and being accepted for who he really is. What do you really want? What do you value most? The friendship? Love? Authenticity? Is it pursuit of knowledge? So now that we have our fears and our values down, how do we resolve the conflict between these two things? Well, we face our fears and we live according to our values. Not easy. Easier said than done, I know. It takes practice. But it's important that we do both. Okay? We try new things that feel scary and hard. And we do so because we know exactly why we're doing it, because of what matters most to us. And make an intention and stick with it in the moment. Remember what you're doing these things for. So if you're thinking to yourself, I'm afraid of being wrong in class, say, well then, you know what, I'm going to raise my hand and participate anyway, because it's important to me to share my perspective and learn from others. And if you do so, you'll be on the road with short-term pain as you're approaching your fear, for long-term gain because you're actually getting what you want and you're living the way you want to live it, instead of short-term gain by getting into your fears and avoiding, for long-term pain because you're not living the way you want. You're not getting what you want out of life. And look, it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, remember, we learned from our mistakes and our losses too. This is not something you're going to change overnight. Okay, start small, be patient. Face smaller challenges first, and then move up to more difficult, challenging, scary situations. And you know what? Don't forget to give yourself some rewards, like that ice cream maybe, and some encouragement along the way. And look, sometimes we'll choose avoidance, and that's okay. That happens. Okay, we're going to scroll instead of addressing that fight we had with a friend. Or we're going to clean our room for the 5th time instead of studying for that test in the morning. Okay, that's going to happen. We might even worry or ruminate about all the different options we have in front of us, thinking that maybe we're approaching and problem solving through worrying. Or not. We're stuck in the conflicted system, rather than translating that spark into action. So if we pay close attention to our spark, and we focus on the signals we're getting from our conflicted system, we lay out our fears and our values. We resolve the conflict between the two by facing our fears and living according to our values. We can start fostering the willingness to do hard things and take chances, living with the possibility that both our worst fears are going to come true and we're going to get exactly what we hope for. Thanks so much.